Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right, a capsule. This is a small section of my Office Hours live stream that you can come watch live at twitch.tv/theastropub or youtube.com/theastropub live on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come join us. It's an AMA. See all these wonderful folks here. They're all going to tell you this is pre-recorded because it's not pre-recorded, even though it's live. I'll say it's live. Say hi, chat. And ask your own questions, come involved. So because this is sort of off the cuff, I may stutter a little bit. I may linger like that a little bit. So just keep that in mind while we're going forward, and there may be some cuts here and there because this is a pretty big one. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to take a look at 318 as a whole because there's some big news that have happened pretty recently. So with that, let me pull this up real quickly before we do, just so I can have the roadmap up. And then we will get started. So Wednesday, we had the roadmap roundup, and there is some big information there. So let's get started with the roadmap roundup. So roadmap roundup for Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Every 2 weeks, we accompany the roadmap update with a brief explanatory note to give you insight onto the more decision-making that led to any changes. This is a part of an effort to make our communications more transparent, more specific, and more insightful to all of you who help make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 possible. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this week's roadmap roundup. Notable changes for December 7th, 2022. The following cards have been passed their final review for Alpha 318, therefore we are changing their status to committed. Drake Vulture, building, balancing, and implementing Drake's interplanetary's light salvage ship, the Vulture, into game. So this means that they're committed, they're coming with 318 no matter what. Cargo system refactor. This refactor of the system, ship cargo system will allow both found and purchased cargo to be picked up, moved around, and placed into cargo grid of a ship. Time trial race missions. This was a new addition that they kind of slipped in the last minute. Time trial race missions are being added throughout the Stanton system. Players will be able to test their skills versus set times, earning rewards based off of performance, and even unlocking more tracks as they progress. 9 tracks. We know that from other things. 9 tracks. Persistent entity streaming. Implementation of the persistent entity streaming core technology into Star Citizen, making use of services such as the entity graph and replication layer. This will allow every dynamic object in the game to fully persist across all servers, irrelevant of whether it was owned or held by a player. This is big. This means that PES is going to be added into the next patch, which we knew it was supposed to be. Now it is confirmed to be added into the 318. Then Gen 12 Scene Renderer. New rendering architecture to improve performance. This milestone renders every scene object through the new renderer, with optimizations and additional features such as Vulcan coming in the near future. So what does this mean overall? Well, Drake Vulture, obviously needed for salvage. It's been ready for a while, but now they're committed to it. Cargo system refactor, they needed this for salvage as well, but it means that you can now pull cargo out of locations and put them into your cargo bay, and it'll be registered in your cargo bay as a physical object. You can also buy cargo, it'll populate into your cargo bay, and then you can pull that out and, as a physical object instead of just being invisible. Time trial race missions, like I said, it's an entire new profession. Racing is in the game. Like, surprise, which surprised the heck out of me. Persistent entity streaming, which is the core technology that allows for persistence and allows for you to log out in one place and come back into the same place when you're gone, or you drop a coffee cup in the woods and you come leave, you come back, it's still there. At least the first version of it is. Then Gen 12 Scene Renderer, this allows for more of the performance to be added to your graphics card, not your CPU as it currently is bound to. So your graphics card is going to start mattering more. Why is this a big news? Because all of these are committed. This means that they are definitely coming to 318. And as of this recording, which is December 8th, 2022, CIG is still committed to releasing 318 this year. We may know a little bit more by next week how that's going, but at least CIG seems to be still fairly confident of this release. Hopefully, we will know more, but that's an important one. So that isn't just it. That is just what was committed. Let's take a look at the actual roadmap itself, the release view, so we can understand a little bit more on what is coming in with 3.18. So, we have a couple of locations. First of all, Daymar Crash Site, derelict settlements in Star Runner and 600i, new rivers, so there's going to be additional rivers throughout the Stanton system, sand caves will be added, and the Grey Cat PTV racetrack. So those are the 4 major areas. The other thing they haven't put on here, but they have told us separately, is new derelict outposts. So the destroyed outposts, which right now can only be found on Microtech, will be available on every single planet except for ArcCorp. Every moon and planet will have some form of destroyed outpost, which is big. Those will also have missions that go with them that currently exist in game right now. Now we have the cargo system refactor. We already talked about it. It's committed. We have sandbox prison activities, new suites of missions for sandbox activities to give inmates. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a moment. The security post Karaya reactivation. So they're, Crusader security is going in. It's getting its whole new overlook. New missions, which are bounty, assassinate, and clear all, and other missions to take place on the platforms created for Siege of Orison. Time trial race missions, which we already talked about. Salvage hull stripping, so that's the new salvage aspect. That's all just the gameplay, which is fairly large. It's a lot of new content to be added. Drake Vulture, which we talked about. And then we've got the salvage tool attachment, which you need for salvage itself. And then core tech, persistent entity streaming and Gen 12 scene renderer. That's pretty big. That's a lot of content, even gameplay content compared to where we are. Now, some of it is stuff that's just we already have, like rivers, which is pretty rivers, which are now being ported to other places, and the derelict outposts, which are already in Microtech, which is ported out there. But that gives more variety. It gives more of a kind of flavor to it. Plus, new crash sites and racing and such. So. Now, they've also been doing a patch watch. Now, they'd be doing this when they do these big patches, when they get close to it. They kind of go into more detail about things you may not fully have talked about. They may have fully talked about. These are kind of like small highlights of changes which we may not know about. They've done 2 of them so far, both with Christian Wayne Schmidt, who's one of the community managers at Star Citizen CIG. One of the little known ones who does a lot of stuff like this. Pretty cool. Hi, Chris. So, hello, everyone. As with previous patch watches, we're spotlighting a section of upcoming features and improvements that don't appear in the public roadmap. So as we approach release day for Squadron 42, Star Citizen Alpha 3.18, here are some of the latest additions making their way into the build. Key binding. We're currently working on significant changes to the aiming system, which will not debut in 3.18, but in a later patch. However, several related key bindings will be available for upcoming release. New gimbal swap controls. This will allow you to set a gimbal mode of your choice directly. G short press will only swap between fixed and auto gimbals. G long press will activate manual gimbal mode. Additionally, there are now keybinds to directly select fixed, auto, and manual gimbal modes. Toggle pip type. We will give you the option to toggle between lead and lag pip. PIP is an acronym. Point information point. I can't remember exactly. It's effectively the little dot that you have on your screen when you're trying to shoot at something. It's like telling you where to shoot in order to hit the target. Precision impact point, I think is what it is. Predicted impact point. Thank you, chat. Giving you more flexibility to adjust your aiming. In addition to the toggle binding, you can now directly set lead or lag mode with a button. ESP, which stands for Enhanced Stick Precision, which allows for the sticks to guess where you're going to go as you're turning to make it a little bit smoother experience. 2 new hold key bindings for the pilot and turret gunner will be added to allow you to momentarily enable ESP by holding down the button. This is useful for certain joysticks that field dual stage triggers, allowing the first stage to enable ESP and the second stage to fire weapons. Separate keybinds for deploying and retracting landing gear. In addition to the current toggle, you'll be able to set keys specifically to deploy or retract your landing gear, which is required for hardware switches. Stopwatch. We're adding a stopwatch to the flight HUD as a tool for the racing community. 2 key bindings will be available, unbound by default. Short press will start the pause the watch. Long press will reset the watch. This is cool, and this is something I'd really like. If CIG, if you're listening, this is fantastic. Port this to Squadron 42, because if you have stopwatch functionality in Squadron 42, it'll be perfect for speedrunners. Have it already in the game. Great for it. The stopwatch will only be visible in the in-flight HUD due to some hooking problems. It will not be visible to ground vehicles for now. At a later date, we'll move stopwatch functionality to the visor, where it'll also work outside of ships. We may extend the stopwatch based off community feedback at a later point as well. That's my feed point. Everywhere. Everyone gets a stopwatch. Balance changes. This one was pretty big and a lot of confusion. In fact, myself have some concerns about this, but ballistic shield penetration. Ballistic shield penetration will be largely increased. With this change, even strong shields will only scrub off a few % of incoming ballistic damage. Related, but not quite ready for Alpha 318, we're working on a weapon diversification, which will strongly influence weapon performance parameters and ammo counts. This is planned for a later patch next year. Health component / distortion pass. The health of items will be increased to have less chance of being immediately destroyed by a single missile hit. Distortion numbers are also changing. Coolers will not be affected by distortion to avoid deadlocking. Power plants will not scale down to their power output with increased distortion damage, but instead binarily shut off once distortion damage is too high. Power plants will then take 5 minutes to recover, while powered down items will not receive any more distortion damage. These are not final tuning values for distortion. Consider them a temporary measure until we approach related gameplay topics like slowing ships down. Okay. Minor bug fixes. Mineable gems will be stackable in inventories now for 318. The team will also added a minor improvement to mining gadget UI for better readability. That's it for this patch watch. Okay. So, this is interesting. A lot of binding stuff. The reason why they're doing the separate key bindings for deploying and retracting landing gear is because they want to have the ability for your folding wings and the other kind of changing dimensions has its own bind. So deploying versus retracting are different as well. The dual key for ESP, more pips, and gimbal swaps are all about targeting. They're changing up because they're changing how flight controls. And then the ballistic shield damage is the big one that a lot of people are talking about, because effectively this is going to turn the game into the meta of the game will focus more around ballistics than energy weapons, because it just ignores shields. There's a couple of inferences for this. One, when asked for clarification, CIG said specifically that this is not an improvement to weapons, but a change to the shields. And that they said that it's a simple change that they can go back to if they want to, just a couple of percentage changes, a couple of numbers on a spreadsheet effectively, to change it if they really want to. But they're trying to gather data about what it's like, what damage is going to be like before armor is added into the game. And the other inference is that this is being done for armor, which, who knows? Right now, CIG has been pretty much radio silent on armor. But this is implying that they're getting data for it. That could mean 6 months from now. That could mean a year from now. It could mean the heat death of the universe. This is CIG time we're talking about. But they're at least gathering data for it. And the other thing that they're doing temporarily is the health component distortion pass, which is 100% being done for boarding gameplay, which is what 318 has become the stealth component for, the stealth launch for, which is a pirate gameplay. That's something that if you've not been following 3.18, welcome to the pirate patch, because now all ships are not going to be destroyed when they're destroyed. Instead, they're going to reach what's called soft death mode, where they'll just not be able to function. You cannot repair them. You cannot fly them. They're effectively a wreck. You can still blow them up if you shoot them long enough, but the goal is to make it harder for you to explode and make it easier for people to disable you so they can steal your stuff. That's what this distortion pass is for. It's designed so that distortion weapons can actually be used for their main purpose, which is to slow down and stop ships. These changes are big in terms of not just the meta, but how the gameplay is going to play in 3.18 and going forward. These are the groundworks for some major shifts in how the game will be played. Now, that wasn't the only patch watch. There was another patch watch that came out today, this morning, which talks about lawlessness. So let's keep looking on this. Following our first Alpha 3.18 patch watch last week, we're following up. Oh, and I completely forgot about this. The why armor is important is because it's also the changing of the damage states. Like how damage will work in Star Citizen is going to be very different, which I'll talk about here in a moment. We're following up with more fixes and improvements you'll experience in the verse soon. Many adjustments flow into the build each quarter, often based on your feedback and issue council reports. This week, we reached out to the mission feature team to give you a sneak peek at how they incorporated your feedback. Quality of life adjustments. When at Platinum Bays, players will only see ships they can spawn at the Platinum Bay. No more scrolling and guessing. Awesome. That's the Platinum Bays are the landing zone areas, so you don't have to scroll past all the ships that can't spawn. When reconnecting to a comm array, players can now cancel the reconnection if they choose to allow illegal players to retake the location and ensure lawlessness continues. Okay, so you can cancel reconnecting if you want to. Change some fundamentals on how spawn closets work. For example, NPCs no longer will be deleted when they stream out and will instead be tied to the streaming manager. This should help fix missing NPCs in missions. Okay. Fixed an issue with locations sharing names when they should be unique. We had two unlawful UGFs called NT999XVI, which causing confusion when accepting missions. Fixed an issue where the really long crime names would stretch into the date and overlap using the criminal database. Fixed an issue where the comm array's repair mission wouldn't be regenerated due to settings based on the mission record. Fixed an issue where some derelict items wouldn't spawn, preventing derelict missions. We have changed them so they use the new tech as server was taking some time to send certain events, which made them look like they didn't work. Changed the arrival distance to Security Point Korea when quantum traveling, so you should now arrive closer than before. Fixed up the surface relay mission, as there were no issues where the terminal wouldn't pop out of the relay. There were issues. Surface relay mission. I've never heard of that one. Added voice line packs to security so they feel more alive. Good. Fixed various issues with the Siege of Orison. They're bringing back Siege of Orison for the next patch, including fixing an issue where dialogue would play when players entered a ship being used in an event, and change the way shipping containers spawn so they're not always at the location. Change how some of the objectives work on the prisoner transport missions so they are more structured and make sense. Updated missions to allow non-lethal takedowns to count towards mission progression. This will work for a lot of missions, but not all. Underground Facility, Orison, Island missions, etc. Fixed issues with the oxygen kiosk missions where they wouldn't pick up the correct oxygen kiosk. Made the black spot ignore the comm array overview so players can commit crimes in the zone and get away with it. Added prison-based loot to the AI inhabiting prison caves. Added a Platinum Bay to Barton Flats so players can go there escaping the prison. So they're adding AI to prison caves, which is good. They also added a Platinum Bay to the flats so you can get stuff out of there. There's a bunch of stuff here. Siege of Orison's coming back. First reference of that. bunch of crime array stuff to be able to be more unlawful. And then we've got a couple more here. Air traffic control will now clean up debris on landings pad / port when that pad is assigned for use, which is nice. Law. Fix an issue where criminals can press charges against lawful players who snared them. Fix an issue where the gunner of a vehicle can give a pilot a crime stat for attacking an AI vehicle. Nice. Med pens won't give crime stats when used on others. Fix an issue if a player rams a stationary unmanned ship and is killed, they can press charges against the owner of the empty ship. Fix an issue where an aggressor can crash into an innocent person's ship and then press charges for vehicle damage. Fix an issue where players with crimes who have infiltrated the prison can wipe their crimes by getting in the release lift. Okay, thanks, Citizen Kate. Way to go, Kate. Modified the call to arms mission to respect crime stats. Change it so crime stat 1 and 2 won't cause a player to be arrested or denied landing. Very cool. So they've changed that, which was the case. So not a huge change, but a lot of stuff which is important for the criminal aspect of the gameplay. We're adding security point Korea, which is why they wanted to, as the only place you can hack away your crime stat, which is why crime stat 1 and 2 are no longer going to affect you. They're just fines, effectively. You don't have to go to Korea to hack them away. A lot of things where you can't, it was easier to kind of grief the system so that you can get your own things. And then a lot of other things which were just fixing issues with quality of life adjustments here and there. So, why is this important? Well, 3.18 just went from being a good platform that we needed to have, like a Band-Aid we needed to rip off to get that new tech in, to being the foundation of the game. This is laying the groundwork for effectively all of the patches next year. This is big. From the damage system, for those of you who don't know what the damage system is, the way that the damage system currently works is a pool system. Each part of your ship has HP. As your ship takes damage, those HP, like health points, will go down. And if you reach 0 health points on a part of the ship that isn't vital, like say a wing, it'll fall off. But if you reach a health HP of 0 in a vital place, like say your fuselage, then you explode. In the future, which is what they're preparing for with all these additions here, when your ship gets shot on a hull plating, it will do nothing unless it is A, pressurized on the inside, in which case it'll just depressurize that area. B, the way you shot had some sort of cabling which are connected to the rest of the systems, which will then turn off that cabling, which will then force players to repair or to reroute power, reroute the systems, or it is a location where a component lives. So in the future, most of your attacks will be useless. You'll be shooting effectively empty space. You'll have to target specific areas in order to actually kill a ship. Otherwise, you're just filling the ship full of holes. So a lot of the stuff that's being added now and being tested now is in preparation for that system, including things like what we know are coming in probably Q2 of next year, which are things like the resource system, all of these different tests with shields and all that sort of thing. So yeah, this is pretty big. There's a lot of aspects of this patch which are far more in depth than was originally planned. Now, the question remains, can this release before the end of this year? As of this recording, it has not reached Wave 1. That could be changed. This is going to release on the Saturday afterwards, so that could happen. And CIG seems to be still, at this point, fairly certain that they want to release it this year. Could still happen. Could slip until next year. Who knows? We'll have to learn more about it in the future. But no matter what, this patch is shaping up to be far more than just push the PES out the door patch. So I want to know what you think. Do you think this is good news for Star Citizen? Are you upset about any of these changes? Are you excited about these changes? Let me know those things in the comments below. Make sure that if you haven't sign up for Star Citizen. If you've been watching this because, hey, I'm interested in Star Citizen, there's my, it'll be right here, probably on my face. I don't know where. There's my referral code. Make sure you use that when you sign up for Star Citizen and get you a little extra points, and it gets me a little cool things. I'm going to try to pump my referral codes more often. And of course, subscribe for more videos like this and to come join us live here on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Like the video if you want to spread the word, and make sure you hit the little bell icon to be notified when these videos come out. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. Say goodbye, chat.